Hello, David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. You can probably recognize my guest, Lorenzo from Omega Bond Watches. Buddy, what's going on, man?
Good to see you, David. How are you?
I'm doing really good. I feel very refreshed, and I shouldn't because we're here at Dear Irving, this amazing Bond-like club, and we've got the place to ourselves.
We do.
But it was a little different last night when you and I were here.
Very different.
Vespers were flowing.
Good times were to be had. Pictures on the balcony overlooking the city. It was incredible.
It was amazing. We'll put a couple pictures right here. You've got to see this place and you've got to see us. But we were celebrating your upcoming nuptials.
Yes.
I mean, congratulations, man.
Thank you so much. I just can't say enough about the people that have come out and been here for me and have shown that our relationship has been a lot, not only just to them, but to me also. And there's nothing better than having your friends be there for you.
Yeah.
And not just in a James Bond capacity, but just as a friend and a friendship.
Yeah, what a nice thing to say. And I totally agree. And as people were doing toasts, I think a lot of what came across was we all come for Bond. But then the bond falls away, excuse the pun, and what we're left with is really just wonderful, great brother friendships. And it's really amazing like that. But we're not here to gloat over each other because you would stop watching and you'd go to Calvin Dyson's channel. I was really excited a couple weeks ago when we knew we were going to do this to get Lorenzo face to face in a cool atmosphere to talk about watches, and not just to go like, let me tell you the specs on this watch, but really to talk about both the emotional and physical journey of acquiring a watch, because it isn't just walk into a store and go, I don't like that one. It's a hunt, it's a search, and you've been a part of it on both the acquiring side of things. He has a lot of watches, but also now you're helping people in that journey. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so probably about a month or so ago, I started working with a boutique called Terra, which is actually a part of the Swatch Group, and that the Swatch Group is a part of Omega and other brands, but Terra is a home for multiple brands and Omega. So in Las Vegas, we have a Tourbillon boutique that basically is there. So when a collector comes in, they're not just, oh, I'm here to see one brand. It's more of like a one-stop shop for multiple companies. So I started working with them, and my title is tour guide, and so
which is perfect for you, tour guide.
I'm gonna take you on a watch journey.
Over here, this way, with an umbrella and everything like that. Yeah.
Everyone this way.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm there to just help bring people into the boutique to get them to try watches on, or if they have a specific piece they want to see in particular. It's my way of kind of connecting with them, and in official capacity.
The way you've described it to me, and you're so good at this, both visually and obviously with your words, is you storytell. And some people don't know when they're looking for a particular watch, like an Omega watch, what story they want to be a part of. I know I have several Omega watches, and very recently, this is. By the way, when this debuts, I may even have this thing, but you know that I've got a hankering, a craving, if you will, for the Quantum of Solace watch.
Yes.
That he wears. And you're helping me with this, kind of in the hunt and the search, find the right one, not get too caught up in the whole idea of what it looks like at first, because it could be refurbished, but it feels complicated to the uninitiated. For you, it's like second nature.
It's very uncomfortable to go out there and buy a watch that you either are just like, oh, I like it, I've seen it visually, but it's like I can't walk into a store and just buy it,
Right.
Navigating the secondary market can be a very challenging aspect of watch buying. I mean, I have a tiny bit of experience doing this. Some of my pieces were they were quite a journey, and like you said about the storytelling, it's not going to be what you imagine every single time, but there are some keys that you want to look for. And the first thing is, wherever you're buying from, you want to make sure you're looking for reputable salesmen or sites to work with, because what ends up happening is those people that have sold to them before, or they have sold to, they are going to have some sort of track record. And if you don't do your research, that's where you start getting into trouble. So If you like, I know a lot of people kind of like think like, oh, I can't buy anything off of eBay, and the reality is eBay has changed their whole authentication process. So there's a lot of peace of mind now when you're spending thousands of dollars on these timepieces. You know, it doesn't go from just a person in their home sending you whatever they have, and then you have to deal with it when it shows up at your doorstep. So what happens is the watch gets sent to the authenticator through eBay from the seller. It is authenticated by a party expert that eBay has hired. They go through the watch and they'll either sign off on it, or they'll say no, or they'll say, okay, this is real, but X, Y, and Z. So it just depends on the condition of the watch, and then they notify the buyer, look, you know, if everything's good to go, in 2 days you'll have your watch.
Right.
Does it make the buying process a little longer? Sure, but I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate the fact that there is peace of mind there.
Absolutely.
So I do love that. I know a friend of mine that went through this, and it was an authentic watch, but the bezel ring was replaced with an aftermarket bezel ring. So
They called that out.
they called it out. They're like,
Yeah.
this is not authentic, you know, piece of the watch. So it was up to him if he wanted to buy it. He chose to move on.
Yeah.
No harm, no foul. And that's the kind of protection you're getting with this service.
That's great.
Yeah, it's awesome because, like, I mean, ultimately, we want what we're paying for. We want something authentic.
Yeah.
And I can stand behind something like that, especially for people that aren't as knowledgeable or can't tell the difference between those things.
So, in your experience, you know, you've got kind of a safer kind of peace of mind type of situation. For me, sorry, for the 6 people that know what that is, yeah, drink. For me, it's an emotional journey. So you know, for several weeks I've been wanting a Quantum of Solace, mostly because I feel like I'm the poster child for Quantum of Solace, but also I just dig the film, I dig the moment in it. The watch has such a prevalence in the film, and now I've got that itch just down there. Down there.
Yes.
To get this. But do you find, in talking to people and even for yourself, that it begins with something emotional as opposed to, I need a watch?
I mean, it's funny because this never really started like this for me. Like, I never had the premonition that, hey, one day I'm going to have all the Bond watches that were made by Omega. Like, that was not what it was.
You didn't set out to do that?
No, it was. I think I was on my 5th watch when I started saying, this could be a thing, you know? Yeah. And it took me a little over 6 years to make it happen, but once you, like, set your mind on something and you work towards it, it can happen. But it's not like I paid full retail for all these. I had to go back and find them because they're discontinued models. So that is where the journey begins for me.
Yeah.
For me.
But and you brought some watches today.
I did. I brought a couple. I didn't bring them all because traveling across the country is
with a suitcase
and a handcuff on your arm.
Yeah, it's obnoxious.
Yeah, but so today the ones I brought with me, which I left one over there, but you have it on. So the newest one, the No Time to Die.
We'll kind of show this, and then we'll get some close-ups for people. Yeah,
which is obviously the newest Bond watch, is night and day different from anything we've ever seen from Omega. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, A, appreciate it, and B, I call this one the most misunderstood timepiece. and the reason that, I know
where you're going to go, but go.
I'm going to go there. The reason it's the most misunderstood timepiece is because I think when you get the specs for a watch like this and you just get the broad overview, it's very easy to miss certain details. So everyone goes, oh, the price, it's $9,000. This is insane. They're charging the Bond markup. That's my favorite quote I hear. Yeah. They're not charging a Bond markup, let's be clear. A titanium watch from Omega has always been about $8,000 or more. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
It is.
It's what they would consider a premium material, and that's just the price range you're going to be with it. I did a post probably a couple months back where I took other comparable models made with the same material, and put the prices next to them, and I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay,
it's not outlandish.
It's not. We're talking maybe $200-300 difference in pricing, and look. The Bond brand needs to get theirs. That's just the way it is.
Of course.
Like they have to support the brand.
It's a luxury brand. You cannot put materials and time and say that's the equation of what it is. It's limited. It's deluxe. It's luxury. And by the way, you have a choice. You do not have to buy it.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, and this is actually just a shift in the market in general with Omega, is we saw Rolex be so predominant through the early 2000s. And this whole last 5 years, walking into a boutique and not seeing anything in there.
By the way, he's being so nice. We did that. We walked into a Rolex store yesterday in New York City,
Yes.
and there was nothing in the cases except for maybe 1 or 2 pieces. The place looked like, I'm sorry, it looked like poop.
It was ghost town.
And they couldn't even be bothered with talking with us.
No. Nothing. No.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have walked in there. But I wanted to prove a point. And the point I was trying to drive home is like, when you buy into a brand, you buy into what they represent. And the reason I buy into Omega is because it's a representation of what I want to be associated with.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
And I think a lot of people either look at it that way or they don't. But the point I'm trying to get to, because I'm kind of circling the drain right here, is that Omega has made leaps and bounds in the last few years. And their commitment to excelling and creating and pushing the envelope, they are closing the gap between what Rolex has been known for and what Omega is currently.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the development and the consistent push to be better, Rolex has been sitting on their loins for a long time.
Right.
I mean, a sub is a sub. Like, regardless if you change the lugs a little bit or you don't. And Omega has come out and, like, with the process of the No Time to Die that you got on, David, the bezel on this watch, a lot of people don't realize this, it took Omega 5 years to come up with this material, which is an anodized aluminum oscillic bezel. And it's basically a 4 times harder aluminum than regular aluminum.
Oh, wow.
Extremely scratch resistant. So when we got the specs for this watch, everyone read it's an aluminum bezel. Even myself, I read aluminum bezel. I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
It's going to scratch to death.
This is going to scratch, dent. Why would Omega put some old type of material on a watch?
Right.
Like, oh, well, they're cutting weight, but still, you're paying $9,000 for this. Well, no, actually, so much development went into this, and now it's a fully illumined bezel, which we've never seen by Omega. And it's gorgeous. At night, when it lights up,
It's one of my favorites.
it's a signature. And funny side story, when I bought mine, I didn't even know that until I came home and then hit it with the black light.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a nice surprise for me, and I was like, whoa. And it's funny, like, I'm still learning about the timepiece myself.
And those are those like surprise moments.
Oh,
you know, because it's not enough to get a watch nowadays, but even brands realize they have to exceed the expectations. But from an emotional standpoint, you had a choice to bring certain things here. So what else did you choose and why?
Well, I brought different pieces here because I wanted to talk about their current value, and I wanted to talk about my journey with them.
Please.
So the first one I'm going to talk about is this guy. So we all might recognize this, and it's, I'll try to hold it up to this.
Yeah, we'll get some close-ups too.
Perfect.
What's that baby?
This is the, I'm falling asleep.
We're stretching here. We're just we're hanging out with you.
I think I was like,
That's all.
crushing my leg here. Okay, so this is the Aqua Terra from Skyfall. And I think a lot of people gravitate towards this watch because of the size. This is technically a mid-size. Yeah, go for it.
What's the diameter?
Diameter is 38.5 millimeters.
38.5, yeah.
So, I mean, a true mid-size. Like, and throughout the Daniel Craig tenure, that has been, I mean, honestly, the smallest watch he has worn, with the exception of one other.
But it's how many movies is this thing in?
It's in one movie, and it's predominantly featured in most of Skyfall.
Wow.
But the funny thing is, like, I've said this for a while, and this is where we start getting really technical. This watch is shooting up in value right now. So a couple years ago, you could probably get one for a little under $3,000.
Right.
Original retail on this was $6,000.
Wow.
And you know, that's a steal. I mean, half off.
Yeah.
You know, and I originally wanted the 41.5, which is one in Spectre and No Time to Die. The only difference is there's obviously the size of the casing.
Yeah.
And then there's a date frame around a frame around the window.
Okay.
Which was removed once they went to the master coaxial movement. So this is just a pure coaxial movement.
Okay.
So what's special about that is the 8500 movement was created. It's Omega's first in-house movement they created.
Oh, wow.
So Omega used to use what they call an ETA movement, which is a modified movement from a company called ETA. And so this company would make multiple movements for multiple brands, but then they would tailor it to Omega or
Right.
like whoever else uses their
Why is that
movements.
important to the layman? That doesn't go like, ooh.
Yeah, so the reason that's important is it's more like, how do I put this in a way that I can make it easy to understand? It's like if you go buy a standard model car,
Yeah.
and then you like go and get it tuned aftermarket and you add in the turbo and all this other
Oh, yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Like it makes a difference because now what's happening is everything's being controlled by Omega. So when we say in-house, we're talking like they are building this watch from the movement up.
Yeah.
So it's not like
No compromise,
Yeah,
their
they're
specs.
They're not adding in.
Yeah.
They're not just designing a watch and then plopping a movement in there. They're literally designing the height of the case and the width of the case based on the actual movement of the watch. And let's not forget, Omega has that amazing coaxial movement.
Yeah.
So, and over the years, it's been developed even more. 15,000 Gauss.
Right.
So, and the only reason it's 15,000 is because that's all they can really officially test it to anti-magnetism.
Jeez.
I know, just a lot of
Yeah.
information coming at you.
And
I get
it's
it.
pretty.
It's very pretty. So the teak, back to the watch. The teak dial design is like incredible. I love this watch because it reminds me of Daniel quite a bit because of his color of his eyes.
The blue, yeah.
Yeah, the blue. And it just, if you look at how it reflects in the light, it's just incredible. Like, it's just this great shade of blue.
Yeah.
And I was told the original idea for this dial design was the decking on a boat.
Oh, yeah.
The wood decking on a boat.
Yes.
So,
Which is perfect for Skyfall when they're on the boat going to the island.
exactly.
Right.
That scene immediately comes to mind when I
Yeah.
look at this dial. So as much as I want the bigger one from the newer movie, I went for this one because the reality is this model came out, and for about a year to 2 years, this model was being sold, and then they stopped putting the date frame around the window. So now we're talking about a short amount of time where a specific model was made, and then it was like, okay, we're going to make an adjustment.
Okay.
And we're going to remove the date window frame. So aesthetically, it's going to look different from what they start producing.
Right.
So they removed that, and then a year or so after that, they come out with the master coaxial model, which is basically what I said, a master coaxial instead of a coaxial. So this model I knew over time was going to appreciate in value because of the rarity and the amount that were produced. And now here we are today,
Yeah.
2022, and this is back to full value.
Wow. Boom.
Yeah, and because there's such a desire for it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because, and this is pure speculation at this point, but is it because of the attachment to the movie? Is it attachment to the size?
Is it demand?
It could be
it's gotta
that
be all
too.
that, right?
Yeah, demand really drives that factor.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have gotten used to the fact that Omega, in the past, if you buy an Omega, you're walking out the door, you're losing about half your value.
Wow.
And now, because of walking into a Rolex store year after year and not being able to purchase something, that has really driven people to other brands.
Yeah.
And Omega has said, come to us. We have something we can sell you. We want you to get into our watches and build a relationship. That's where the emotional part of it comes in.
Yeah.
When I walk into a boutique and there's something I want to get my hands on it. I want to talk about it. I want to be able to experience it. No pun there.
No. Patented.
Yeah, so it just, this watch, in my opinion, is becoming a little bit of a golden goose.
Yeah.
So if you can get one and you're on the fence about it, don't think, just get it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the truth.
All right.
So-
well, I see some other pretties over there. What else we got?
So obviously everyone knows what this is, and it's a Spectre 300,
Love it.
which this has become the official travel watch of Lorenzo because
That's so comfortable, isn't it?
it's great. Yeah, I love. For me, it's functional. It's so functional. You have the GMT bezel that you can set different time zones, which obviously for this video I put it back to neutral.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
typically when I go out of my city, Las Vegas, I roll the bezel to whatever time zone it is. So New York would be 3 hours ahead. So I
Right.
put a 3 at the top, and then that automatically like that, boom, I have the time here, and I still have the time back
Yeah.
home. And I know that a lot of people were upset that they did a limited edition on this. And
Oh, yeah.
you missed out if you didn't get it. I missed out. I was one of those.
I was going to say, some people passed, and then how difficult of a hunt is it when, besides the regret that you're feeling, it's got to be a hunt to kind of find that.
It was this guy right here.
Yeah.
was a real pain, pardon my French, in the butt. Like, it was just like...
That wasn't French, but yeah.
I forget, like, we're a family channel here.
Tell us the story.
Okay, so here's the story. 2015, I am at Omega for a Spectre event in Las Vegas. I have the watch on my wrist. I'm having cocktails. I'm one day away from leaving for London for Spectre. I went with my mom. It was awesome. We had a great time. And I would say 2015, I was 27-ish, and I just remember being like, wow, I'm going to Europe for the first time. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to be there for a Bond, premiere and all that. Missed it by 3 days, by the way. Amateur hour.
Damn it.
And I put this watch on, and I was like, this is a nice watch.
Yeah.
And it was the first time they had done a release where it was limited edition, and it was part of the movie. It was featured in the movie. So the price point, we're $7,500, which that's substantial compared to $6,000.
With the most amazing display.
Yes, the box and all the accoutrement that comes with it is just like perfect. Like you feel like you're buying a $7,000.
Oh yeah, it's got real estate. I mean, it really does.
Oh, and it's just so.
So I have a couple things displayed in my bedroom that are just like part of me.
Yeah.
And that display box with this watch in it is like the centerpiece.
Oh yeah.
To my armoire.
Yeah.
It has to be.
And that's the luxury in it. Like you feel like when you're opening that box, you're like, oh, this is the Spectre watch.
Yeah.
Like, boom. And then you got the silver embossed back panel on there, and it's incredible. But enough gushing over that. Back to my story.
Yeah.
I get distracted easily. So I try it on. I'm like, I think I'm going to try to buy this. I ran my credit. They didn't approve it because, I'm in college still.
Yeah.
And, sometimes things don't happen for a reason.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'll deal with it when I get back. I wasn't going to ask my mom to, help me get it. I was like, I'm going to Europe on my own. I don't need to bother my mom with this. In the back of my head, though, I'm like, I really think I need to get this, and just from the standpoint of this might not be something I can go back and do.
Yeah.
And that gives me super FOMO. Like I don't want to miss out on such an amazing piece. And granted, they have the standard model, which is extremely similar, but the bi-directional bezel, GMT bezel, is what sells this watch. The lollipop on the seconds hand is what sells this watch. There's so many facets of it that make it such a unique, luxurious piece from the standard model. Also, the other thing is all the brushed keepers on the NATO. It just really tones it down, doesn't try to draw too much attention. But I mean, when you look at this dial with the liquid metal bezel, it's just second to none. That will never fade. Yeah, it's so the look is just very, very classic and modern. And I immediately think of the DB10, which is, as you know, my favorite car that Bond drives. This made me feel like I'm sure anyone felt back when Goldfinger came out, when they saw the DB5. It's just like,
we're still gushing. We
Gushing.
got to get back to the story.
Oh
How
my
did
God.
you get the damn watch? People watching this and
it's the build up. It's the build. it's the build.
And we'll see you in part 2. No.
And see you next week. No, I'm just kidding. So I didn't get it that day. I went to watch Spectre in London.
Okay.
Came back thinking, we'll try again.
No problem.
Get back. Gone. Sold out. See you later.
How fast did it sell out? It was fast.
I would say officially sold out end of November.
Wow.
And it came out in September, so before the movie was released, it was released. So I think the last time I saw one was a little bit past November 1st.
Okay.
And then you were having to dig and search, and people were starting to buy them on the gray market.
So you come back, and there's no watch. What do you do?
I go, okay, I'm going to have to just move on. And then began the 18 months of complete gushing over this watch and staring at images and praying that it'll happen.
Yeah.
And
were you willing? Was a part of you that was willing to be like, you know what? I'll pay over retail. I just need this watch. Or were you like, I can't go there?
I think I got to the point where I didn't care when I was like, I need to have it.
Okay.
Which is
an emotional thing.
It was very emotional.
Has to be. Yeah.
I knew I needed that watch just based on the fact that I went to London for the first time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that resonated with that experience. And would I have wished it would have happened when it did? Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But it didn't. But it's not about missing it. It's about how are we going to finish. And so 18 months later, so end of 2017, I sold my house, and I made a killing on it.
Nice.
And I was like, the first thing is that as soon as the money hits my account, I'm buying that watch. I paid $10,500 for this watch.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking $3,000 over market.
Yeah.
And I'm like, as painful as it was to make that kind of financial commitment to something that I missed out on, I didn't regret it for 1 minute. I was so happy to have the timepiece on my wrist.
That's it.
And the other thing that was kind of creating a ton of anxiety was, okay, I secured the watch. It was one of the last ones that was unworn.
Wow.
I was very fortunate.
Yeah.
And so I still got that experience of no one wore this, it's mine. Which, granted, sometimes you can't do that. You know, you got to just say, well, this is what it is. I imported it from London.
Okay.
First time I ever imported a timepiece.
Wow.
And then I'm tracking, boom, hits customs. It was overnighted.
Yeah.
2 weeks later.
Oh no. And you're dying every day.
I'm dying because I've never dealt with this. So imagine spending that kind of money on a watch that you've never spent before, and then it's stuck in customs. And you're just like, am I ever going to see this watch?
Yeah.
And then ultimately cleared customs.
Okay.
And showed up.
Yeah.
And I had it sent to my mom because I was in and out of my house from time to time, and
Sure.
she was at home consistently, and she calls me, she goes, it's here. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like getting super excited. I'm like, I think I like left class early that day. I was like,
Of course. It's like,
I'll make
do
it
college
up
some other time.
Yeah, I'll just get to it when we can get to it.
Yeah.
So I get there, and the first thing she says to me is, do you know what I told the FedEx guy? I was like, what'd you tell him? And she goes, I asked him if he knew what he was holding in his hands.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, Mom. And she's like, oh, it's like a very expensive watch. And I'm and the guy's like, no, you don't say. And then he's like, what is it? And then she told him it was a Spectre watch.
Right.
And the guy knew what she was talking about.
Oh,
He
that's
goes,
cool.
That's what's in this box.
Yeah.
And it was
Then he left with it.
And
now
then
he
he
still
left.
doesn't have
Yeah, I don't have one. My mom, she's,
Oh,
bless her,
wow.
she's amazing. But when I opened that box up,
Yeah.
I will tell you, David, not one time did I think about that money. Not once.
Yeah.
I was so happy to have it.
There's a quote, and I tell everybody this ad nauseum, that happiness is the equity of life, not money. Mm-hmm. And when you get money, you look back and you realize your happiest times were about things that weren't a paycheck. And when you acquire something that you have an emotional tie to
Yes.
and a connection, and I know we're sounding very first world here, but the reality is that you think about the happiness, you don't think about the dollars. Like, you don't sit there and go, ching, a $10,000 rings over it.
Well, the thing is some people do. And I'm not here to judge.
You don't.
I don't. That's not my journey.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm here
That's
to
not
do.
your journey, that's right.
And that's okay. Some people, that's what does it for them, and that's not what does it for me. And again, these are very expensive luxury items. Like, this is not. I am not complacent on the value that goes into these. Like these. If you have one of them, it's an accomplishment.
Yeah, and an investment too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But some are more emotional than others. So talk to us about this one right here.
So
This is like when he took this out and showed this to me, I was like, oh.
yeah.
So
So
tell everybody what we got.
So you have in your hands the 1965 vintage Omega Seamaster chronograph that Daniel Craig wore at the end of Spectre for 2 seconds.
In that really cool
End scene, yeah. In
outfit
the,
and everything in a DB5.
Yeah, the 3-piece Tom Ford,
Yeah.
with the checkers. And this watch in particular has been the bane of my existence as a collector. Like,
We talked to you about an emotional journey. They're not always good emotions.
No, they're not. But look, I'm a collector. I'm a true collector, and going through and through, it's not real until it's in your hands.
Yeah.
And I started the journey for looking for this watch after Spectre started. Like, I found out what it was, and when I missed out on the 300, I was like,
Yeah.
all right, maybe I'll get the vintage.
Now,
And
when you start something like this, do you go, how hard could it be? Who really wants this watch? Or do you go, damn it, this is an older watch. I'm going to have a hard time with this.
So again, here we go back to I'm going through another journey with myself. Is buying a vintage watch is extremely different than buying a watch that is just not produced and was out like a couple years ago.
Right.
Like it's not like there's like an easy way to tell how many are available. And the reference numbers, one variation. Back in those days, a lot of them look very similar.
Yeah.
Extremely. We were talking like one subdial's missing, or the markers are gold instead of stainless steel. And this model in particular is very rare because of what's inside of it. And now we're going to get into the movement.
Okay.
So inside of this watch is the renowned movement that Omega features, is their 321 movement.
Okay.
The same movement that went to the moon, that has been produced for the Ed White edition. It's a very complicated movement that Omega used to do on the regular. Highly sought after. How complicated is this movement? Well, let me tell you. It's
coming. It's coming.
When you set a 321 movement into Omega, you're looking at 12 to 14 months of service time.
Right.
There's only 5 technicians in Omega qualified to work on that movement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And it's so complicated that they need time to, one of these certified technicians needs to be the one putting their hands on
And they don't have all the time in the world.
Whoa.
I'm out. Locked and loaded. All right.
No, but it was fine because when I got this one from Cassandra, she was the reason I ended up with it. So the first time we met, during 2020,
Rocco's.
Good
Good steakhouse.
amazing steakhouse. I was on a flight to visit you, and someone who follows me had reached out to me and said, "Oh, can you tell me what you think about this timepiece?" And I'm like, "Okay, let me see what it is." And so I see that it's the 321 movement. It's the Spectre vintage, and I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe this guy found it." And I'm like, and he's telling me, he's like, "Oh, I don't know if I want it. Like, what's the value?" I'm like, "I'm not an appraiser."
Yeah.
I am the type of person that's like, how much do you want for it? And okay, let's do it. Like, it was just like a very black and white. It's a very black and white thing for me. And so he seemed very unsure, and I was like, let me know whatever you do. If you pass on it, I'm gonna go for it.
Right.
So I send the link to Cassandra, and she looks at it and she's like, "Oh, are you gonna try to get it? Like what?" And I'm on an airplane while this is going on.
Oh my
mind you.
gosh, it's torture.
It was the worst. So I told her, I was like, "It's sold. Like, don't worry about it. Like, let's just move on, and it'll happen when it happens." But it was cool to see that one popped up. So guy goes on. I forget about it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Christmas morning, 2 months later, I open a box and here it is. And Cassandra had a friend who works in antique buying, help facilitate this deal for her.
Oh my gosh.
Because she knew this was the last piece to my collection.
Okay, I have one big question, because this whole conversation, thank goodness, has been less about metal and workings and things like that, and much more about emotions, which you really can't, they're not tangible. But Christmas morning, you have no idea you're getting this. You open this box. Tell us about what went through your mind. Shock?
Speechless. Because I could not believe what I was looking at.
Yeah.
I could not believe it. I could not believe someone I was with went to these lengths to secure something that was essentially, I put so much time and research into looking for one, and for her to reach out to someone else that is more of an expert on it, it just shows her commitment to making something happen for me because she loves me.
Yeah.
And
creating an experience, all that.
That watch, I tell her all the time, this is our watch.
Do you wear this?
I wear that. She wears it. We have a short strap for it, which the strap I had to source, which they don't make it anymore.
Is it the correct strap that he wears in the movie?
It's the correct strap.
Damn, dude.
Which, it's a reproduction of the original strap.
Right.
But yeah, I know him.
No, it's good though.
But Omega stopped doing it. It's a very familiar leather you might recognize. Do you recognize that leather?
The Prada belt?
Bingo. Do you know what that leather's called?
Cross stitch.
Saffiano leather.
Saffron leather. Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
So Omega did that for a short run for their vintage
You're such
pieces.
nerds.
I know.
don't know if
It's
you-
a problem.
I don't know if you can tell. What?
And they did it for so long, and then they discontinued it. So
Yeah.
when I started looking, they had discontinued it. So I'm like, I got to get my hands on one of these straps so I can make it complete. I have the original buckle, but this is more of a modern one.
I like that.
The thing is, the vintage one, it's very thin and it wobbles around. And I was like, I have it. I can put it on there when I want it to be 100% accurate.
Yeah.
But I like it on this one because it just fits well and makes it look complete. But it's just a different profile.
Yeah.
You know, and I just love the journey that behind it.
It's
and
amazing.
it wasn't me that finished it.
Yeah.
It was my soon-to-be bride that was the one that finished the collection.
And that's what I love about these discussions. I mean, the different paths. I'll call them the different paths. It's not one journey and they're all alike. It's not step 1 to step 4. Everybody takes their own path. So here's how we're going to finish this video. And this is probably the most important part of the video because tour guide Lorenzo over here, official. If somebody is saying to themselves, I don't have a Bond watch, I don't have, but I want an Omega because there's obviously different ones you can get.
Of course.
Where should they start? I mean, even mind and physically, like, do they start doing research? Do they reach out? Like, where do they begin the process if they've never done it before?
Okay, so are you speaking to with me being involved, or are you speaking to like just in general?
It could be getting you involved, or just let's say in general.
In
first.
general, okay. The best thing I can recommend is just get on the website, start cruising the catalog.
Right.
Understand the differences between the models. Like, you know, a Seamaster is going to consist of 4 models.
Yeah.
You got the 300, you got the Diver 300M, which is No Time to Die.
Yeah.
The 300s, which I might clarify, which is the Spectre. And then you got an Aqua Terra,
Yeah.
you know, the Skyfall. And then you have a Planet Ocean, which is...
So look at the whole canvas of what you
Yes.
can choose from.
Yeah, see
Okay.
what it is. If you want a sports watch, that's where you're going to start. If you want a dress watch, you're going to look at the DeVilles. If you
Right.
want, you know, if you want something that's got more complications to
Yeah.
it, you have the Speedmaster, which the famous moon watch. There are so many different avenues. First, figure out what it is you're aiming towards, what you want to actually kind of do with your your
Right.
wrist. Like, what do you want to look at on the regular? Then start breaking it down by style and color.
So do you recommend, once you see the canvas, once you see the catalog and you
Mm-hmm.
kind of make that first initial, okay, this is the watch that can live with me
Right.
in the world I live in, should they then make it about the emotional connection? Like, is there one that is in a movie, for example, that you
Yeah.
absolutely adore
Yeah.
versus like, God, I hate that movie. But
Well, so it could be a movie or it could be history. And a lot of my friends,
the moon watch.
The moon watch. So yesterday we spent time at the boutique in New York City
Yeah.
with some of my great friends.
Yeah.
And some of them, this was their first experience with an Omega.
Oh, no kidding.
So my good friend Joe from high school,
Yeah.
he's been in the military. The guy served his time, you know, and he was just wanting to take it in.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was like, hey, I think I have a timepiece you'd be interested in. And he was like, oh, well, tell me more.
Yeah.
And so I asked it was
Dario or Andrew?
Andrew.
Andrew, yeah.
Yeah.
Great guys.
Andy. I had Andy pull a moon watch for him, and graciously he went through the history with Joe of what this watch was. We walked out of Omega, and I will tell you, Joe was sold. He was like, I need to have one of those.
Wow.
Because for him it resonated with his connection to the Air Force.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and exploration and all that. And he was like, that is a watch I gotta have.
Yeah.
And look, he walked in there, he didn't know anything about this watch, but something about the history
Yes.
of this model.
So important for you to find some sort of connection.
Yes.
Beyond the watch itself.
100%.
Okay. And then once you have that first phase, you've got the canvas. Oh, we're doing C's, alliteration. We're doing the canvas, we're doing the connection. What's that thing where someone says, I'm ready to pull the trigger? What do? They go on eBay, Kronos, call Lorenzo. Like, what do they do?
It's funny because that's starting to happen more often, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Look, everyone has a budget.
Yeah.
You have to be realistic about this. If you're going to go buy this thing, is it something you can buy brand new? It's the first question you're going to ask.
Yeah.
If not, you're going to have like more steps. It's kind of like when you're going through a questionnaire.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, if you did this, check yes, and then this no.
They call them decision trees.
Yeah,
It's like,
perfect.
Yeah.
If yes, why? You know,
right,
so
yeah.
when you go the route of getting like a used model, it is a little bit trickier to navigate.
Sure.
And honestly, it's a case by case situation.
Okay.
So it's going to take longer.
Yeah.
And if you're the type of person that wants more satisfaction out of, I want it now,
Yeah.
and I need it now,
Yeah.
my best advice I can give you is slow it down.
Okay.
You know, it's not a race. You want to be very thorough. You want to make sure you understand the timepiece you're getting. And nothing is better than putting your hands on it.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough.
Absolutely.
Especially with the No Time to Die in general. Like, when I saw the images, I was like, brown.
Everybody says the same thing, by the way.
Yes.
They were sold once they put it on their wrists and looked at it.
When I held it in my hand and I could feel the weight
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and the
So light.
Yeah, and the look underneath the light in the
Yeah.
boutique, I was like, this is an amazing.
It's amazing.
Amazing.
Lorenzo, we could sit here literally all day long and talk about this, but we've got an entire city to explore. It's the second half of his celebration of his nuptials. I'm not calling it a bachelor party because there's no like poles and people wrapped around them, and unless we get in a car and do that. But listen, I want to thank you for doing this and coming on and sharing your passion.
Absolutely. And David, anytime. I love doing this stuff. I'm very passionate about Omega and their connection to Bond. And it's funny because a lot of people will ask me, they're like, are you an Omega fan because of Bond? I'm like, no, Bond brought me to Omega, but then Omega made me a fan of their brand.
Wow.
And I am a brand loyalist, which I don't really vary from there too far.
Yeah.
And it's because I believe in signatures.
I think it shows when you choose a handle like Omega Bond Watches as your handle, which, by the way, you can find Lorenzo on Instagram, on YouTube. We'll put the links below, and your contact information as a tour guide if people want to come in, and it's Las Vegas, so they can have a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
I would imagine even someone could even fly in for a couple days to make it a whole trip and experience.
Yeah.
But have this connection of picking up a watch as like a centerpiece.
Of course, like I've done a couple experiences already with a few clients, and every one of them have said this was an experience. This was not just walking in and buying something.
Oh,
It was about being a part of my journey.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm very lucky because I get to share in that memory.
That's amazing.
So anyone I can be a part of that, it's special for me.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
Yeah, if you're looking to do something like that, just reach out and we'll set an appointment and then we'll go from there.
Love it. Hey,
man.
thanks, brother.
Pleasure.
Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Lorenzo from Omega Bond Watches, and of course, I've been David Zaritsky. I've been David Zaritsky.
You are.
Life. I've been David Zaritsky. I've never even said that, but I have. We'll talk to you real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.